This is Angelo Pizzilla, manager of the Oral History Program with the Battleship New Jersey in Camden, New Jersey. Today is Sunday, August 5th, 2018. We are on board the Battleship New Jersey, and our interview guest is Glenn McCurdy from Peoria, Illinois. Mr. McCurdy served on USS New Jersey from 1983 to 1987, including the Lebanon deployment, and had various duties during his service as part of 6th Division. Welcome home, Mr. McCurdy.
Hi.
What is your current age?
52.
And when did you enlist?
1983.
And how old were you when you joined the Navy?
18.
All right. And what was your inspiration for joining the Navy?
Money for college, and the fact that I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do for college. So I was looking for, I guess, a little time to figure out where I wanted to go with my life.
Mm-hmm. Now, what was the process of you getting in the Navy before we reached boot camp?
Recruiters coming to high school. Recruiters were at our career days, and really made the Navy sound like it was very interesting and positive thing to do.
Mm-hmm. And then after that, after you met the recruiter, you decided to join. How did you go about that?
A lot of talking with my mom. My dad passed away from cancer, excuse me, when I was a sophomore. So kind of lost a lot of my direction. And so my Navy recruiter made it sound like it was a good way to gain direction and move on.
Okay. Were you part of the delayed entry program before you went to boot camp?
It was, but I was able to go in I guess it was June, right out of high school. Got out of high school late May, and just a few weeks later I was off to boot camp.
Okay, and where was your boot camp?
Great Lakes.
All right. Any stories from your boot camp days that you'd like to share, or your boot camp experience in general?
In general, I guess boot camp, you're just kind of blindsided. You don't know what to expect. Now, I did have cousins that were in the military, not necessarily Navy, and told me kind of what to expect. So a lot of times when they were getting in my face and screaming and yelling, I was just keeping it in the back of my mind. That's all they're going to do. That's all they're going to do. We'll get through this. Other than that, boot camp really wasn't too bad once you figured out the rules and when to keep your mouth shut and when to speak up.
All right. Now, after boot camp, did you go to an A school or any A schools?
I did not.
Okay.
I was boatswain mate, so I didn't have any schools afterwards.
All right. Now, when you first got your orders that you were being assigned to the USS New Jersey, what was your reaction to that?
I had actually received orders to USS Reasoner, and while I was on leave before going to the Reasoner, I got my change of orders to New Jersey and found out that it was headed to Beirut, and I was excited but nervous at the same time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, where did you prepare to embark on New Jersey, and what was your first reaction when you saw her?
Well, we took off from Spain, from Philadelphia, flew to Rota, Spain, and from Rota, Spain, I took a helicopter and landed on the Iwo Jima. That morning is the morning that the Marines got bombed in Beirut, and so I spent the next several days on the beach in Beirut helping retrieve wounded Marines and then helping retrieve the bodies of Marines. And then from there, flew from the Iwo Jima to the New Jersey, so I got an aerial view, and incredibly exciting to see such a huge, beautiful ship.
All right. Let's talk about your everyday life on board. Not so much your duty stations or your everyday job, but just general life on board. How was the food? Any stories you'd like to share about just living on the ship day to day?
Pretty casual, actually. I thought life on board ship was a lot of fun. I hear lots of people complain about the food. I never thought it was that bad. I enjoyed most of the food. A lot of the guys didn't even want it, and they just went through the fast line with the burgers. I thought most of the food was pretty terrific and thought they did a great job. But yeah, life on board, a lot of fun, a lot of playing cards, a lot of just hanging with the guys. Of course, in the 80s we had the television, so a lot of just kicking back on the decks watching TV. And of course it's a big wonderful ship and a lot of just walking around and exploring spaces that you didn't go to on a regular work day.
Mm-hmm. Did you do any movies on the fantail or anything like that?
Did a lot of movies on the mess decks. In the mess decks, they showed movies on the mess decks, which was always nice.
Right. So you now, depending on where you were, what off the ship, as far as television, what kind of stations did you get on the ship, depending on where you were? Were you able to pick up local broadcasts when you got close to shore? Did you have? Yeah. What do you remember about that?
You know, I don't really remember. I don't know. One of my weird memories is sitting in my bunk watching TV when it was the launch of the space shuttle, and that's when the space shuttle exploded upon launch. Mm-hmm. And that sticks in my mind. So that had to be one of the regular CBS, NBC network stations.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else about everyday life on board?
I don't know. A lot of good friendships made.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, we were talking before the interview, and as a boatswain's mate, you had a lot of jobs on board. Can you describe some of them in detail and what you did?
Well, I was 6th Division, which was a deck division. And I had a lot of different jobs through 6th Division because I always wanted to try something new. Mm-hmm. I did rigging, which was we chain falls and straps and hoists, and we actually helped in the machinery spaces haul out heavy motors and take them up to the rewind shop. I worked up in the sail locker where we actually did decorative knotting for the captain's gig, and I helped sew cushions for the captain's gig. I was on spray painting team where we went in and spray painted compartments such as this, taped everything off. I had a Binks airless sprayer that we spray painted with. Then I thought it'd be fun to get coxswain qualified. I'll spit that out. And worked on the small boats and ran Liberty boats when we were out at port.
Okay. What were some of the other duties? I know you mentioned 5-inch and powder bag. What was it like to be in the 5-inch mount, and what were you doing?
My actual GQ station was a 5-inch mount.
Okay.
When I first got on board, I was hot caseman, which was a very boring job. But hot caseman, when the gun fired, the 5-inch case would shoot out the back, and if it jammed or didn't make it out the hatch, I had the heavy gloves on and would pick the hot case up and throw it out the back of the mount. But mm-hmm. Through training and a lot of begging, I got up to powderman, then got to be projectileman. We got to put after the powder casing went in, projectileman put the projectile in and pulled the rammer lever. And so I felt pretty important being able to do that.
Okay. Now, just an interesting question. After, let's say you did firing exercise, what did you guys do with the casings after that?
I don't really remember. The gunner's mates, we helped stand them up, but the gunner's mates came in after that and did all the gun maintenance, and I'm not really sure where all the casings went. I heard the casings had to be saved for recycling.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then you mentioned that you actually were a powderman in turret 2. I
got to train powderman in turret 2. Again, when we were in Beirut, in the Mediterranean, there was an awful lot of time with nothing to do, so I trained in different things. And one of the things I got to do was go down to turret 2 and train in the powder handling room. And so that was a really neat thing for me because not many people get into the 16-inch turrets.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you talk about that, were you loading the powder bags as they came out of the to the magazine from the, from the magazine to the powder flat area, and then letting them hoist up? What was that process?
There were people in the actual powder magazines passing them through, and we had a bell on the wall that switched from ready to transfer. And when they'd load a bag into the crank, they'd turn the bell to transfer. I'd turn the crank, the bag would come out, and I then lifted the bag and put it on the powder hoist to go up into the gun.
All right. And you actually did that for the first time the New Jersey was allowed to fire live during Lebanon? Was that your duty station at the time?
That was not my duty station. I did get to do it during a live fire, but it was not during a fire in combat.
Okay. Let's see. Any other jobs on the ship that you can remember you'd like to describe what you did?
Aside from when we all got to do our duty in the mess decks, I was in veg prep and got to throw potatoes in the big peeler, but aside from that, no.
That was the first 3 months of your duty?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you already mentioned that one of your general quarters stations was the 5-inch gun. Which mount was it again?
Mount 54.
Okay. Did you have any other general quarters stations?
No.
All right. How about for watch? What were some of the things you did for watch?
I stood lookout watch. I did stand helmsman. I don't even remember what it was where we got to go and wake everybody up for watches. That was one of the duties, where signing the log and then going down and waking people up. And that was always fun. She'd always wake somebody up that was the wrong person, and they really got angry that you woke them up.
All right. Who were your commanding officers?
Milligan was the commanding officer when I came on board. He's the one I remember most, because he was very active with the crew. And then I believe his name was Glenn. Was 85, maybe 85 to 87.
Okay. So, did you get to meet Captain Milligan, and what was he like?
I met Captain Milligan, and of course, not knowing him well, he seemed very personal, very nice. He truly seemed like he cared about the crew. So you'd see him often. I don't remember exactly in what capacities, but he'd come through and always had nice things to say.
All right. Did you get a chance to meet Captain Glenn?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Were you present for their change of command ceremony, and what was that like?
You know, I don't remember that ceremony, so I don't know. Maybe I was on leave, but I don't remember that change of command ceremony.
Okay. All right. Now, when you arrived on the ship for the Lebanon deployment, what was the atmosphere and the mood of the crew? How were things going on board?
You know, I was a new recruit and so struck trying to figure out my way around. Hard for me to really gauge. I don't think many of us really realized how much conflict there was because we were on board ship, and unlike the Marines on the shore, we didn't have as much actual knowledge of what kind of things were going on shore. So things were pretty casual on board ship for most of the time.
Okay. When the orders first came down to fire live at the Syrian anti-aircraft batteries, what was your reaction, and did you get to see the 16-inch guns in action?
When it was just the 16-inch guns going, when we were at full GQ, oftentimes we did get to go up and watch the guns fire. There were times when we were at general quarters, and of course, in the 5-inch gun mount, you couldn't see anything. And we were called to fire on several times too, and that was pretty exciting. It's funny thinking back now. We weren't really thinking about what we were shooting at as much as we were just going through the motions of making sure that we were loading the guns safely and getting them fired.
So you did do some live fire and anger from the 5-inch guns.
Yes.
Did anybody say what the target was in general? Like, what are you guys trying to knock out?
No. In fact, now that you say that, no, we didn't know in general what we were actually shooting at. We just knew that the guns were trained, and they were. All we did in the gun was actually load them, and they were fired, from the fire control.
Okay. Did anybody give you your rate rounds per minute, your rate of fire, how well you did?
I don't remember any direct feedback on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, let's go back to, you said you did have a chance to at least see and hear the 16-inch guns when you weren't on the GQ. What was that like? Like, what was the first time you heard them go off and see them? What was that like?
Most impressive thing you could ever see. It's so magnificent you really can't put words to describe what it feels like when those guns go off, other than just complete awe.
All right. Now, during the Lebanon deployment, there was a reserve rotation set up just to help out some of the sailors who had been on the ship longer than the usual time because the deployment was extended. Did you get to take any leave during that time when they were rotating?
I did not.
Okay.
Like I say, I came on right after the Marines got bombed, and so I wasn't quite. We were going home about the time I would have been able to take that.
Okay. How were the Navy reservists? Did you get a chance to interact with them, the ones who were coming on board to help with that relief?
I got to interact with a few of them, and we just treated them like regular Navy. They were well trained, and it was a good time. Okay.
Now, while the Lebanon deployment was going on, the USS Iowa was in the process of being recommissioned. Did you know about the Iowa coming to relieve you? And if you did, what was the mood of the crew awaiting for the Iowa?
I know that we had been out at sea for an extended period of time, and we were pretty excited about getting to go home. I remember we were told the Iowa was coming, and it was just good news that there was going to be another battleship.
All right. And what was your reaction when the orders to leave Lebanon came down?
Relief. It was exciting to be on ship, but everybody wants to go home. So it was good news that we were finally heading home.
All right. Now, off camera, you mentioned that New Jersey was doing an exercise or testing while en route home from Lebanon. Can you describe what that was?
Yeah, they still weren't sure of what the 16-inch guns could do and at what angles they could be fired. And there's a pretty famous picture where we fired two guns to one side and turret 2 was fired to the other. I can't remember if there was the two guns going to starboard and one going to port or vice versa, but they fired them in opposite directions, and it didn't do as much damage as some people said it was going to do, but it definitely rattled things in the ship, and dust fell from places you didn't know dust could settle.
All right. Any ports of call stand out? And what was your favorite?
Wow, they were all good. Israel was very nice. Really enjoyed Israel. The people there were very friendly with us. Egypt was fun. I think Israel stands out the most just because all the people were so friendly and the food was great. And I think I had the most time off ship there, so that might stick out a little more. When we were in Egypt, I was getting ready to go on a tour, and we got called back to the ship.
All right. Any travels through the Panama Canal?
Yes.
And what was that like?
I am an Order of the Ditch person. It was exciting, crazy. The ship is only, or the canal is only, a foot wider than the ship, so the ship barely fit through. And I actually have some rubble from the canal in a box at home from when the ship rocked and hit the wall, and chunks of the wall came off on deck, so I have some of that at home. So it was an interesting experience. And while we were going through one of the locks, there was a cruise ship opposite us, and we were waving and throwing hats, and it was pretty crazy.
All right. Did you ever cross the equator?
I did not. I'm so jealous. Right after I got out, the ship went to Australia, and one of the places I always wanted to go, but I missed that. They went in '87, right after I got out.
Okay, so you're still a pollywog.
Yes.
Okay.
Still a pollywog.
All right. Now, the New Jersey went under an overhaul in '86. What did you do during that time?
I was 6th Division, Deck Division, so did a lot of needle scaling and painting. During that time, I worked on the small boats. I was on the boat davit, and just a lot of painting, a lot of chipping and painting.
All right. Do you remember any other changes to the New Jersey while that was going on, while the overhaul was being done?
Not really changes. I don't know what all they were overhauling at that time. We were in dry dock. From what I understood, they were inspecting the screws, painting below the water line, just doing a lot of overhauling of that type. I think it was stuff that they had not finished before taking her out on her shakedown cruise.
Okay. And do you remember how long that was, roughly?
I really don't. Time just kind of, when I'm looking back 30 years ago, it all just kind of blends together. So I don't really recall how long it took.
Now, were you on board when she left dry dock, and what was that like?
I was. I don't remember if we were actually on board ship when it filled the dock with water and hauled it back out, or if it was just a special crew. I really don't remember that part. I think it was just special crew on board. They filled it up, and then the tugs took it back to the pier. And that's where we got back on.
Okay. What was your next assignment as far as you were still on the New Jersey? You were still assigned to her at that time. So what was next? Do you remember if you went to an exercise or midship cruise, or what was next for the New Jersey?
Westpac.
Okay.
Western Pacific cruise.
And what year was that?
That would have been '86 after dry dock.
'86.
I don't remember what month we got out of dry dock, but we did go on Westpac, and that's when Philippines, Thailand, Hawaii, Japan.
And what was that like, just visiting those ports if you had a chance?
A lot of fun for a 20-year-old young man.
Okay. All right. Now, did you have any assignments after your time on the USS New Jersey?
No, I didn't.
Okay, so where did you disembark?
We were in Long Beach when I disembarked and went home to become a civilian again.
Okay, so you got out of the Navy right after you disembarked?
Yes.
Okay, and what year was that?
That was '87.
Great. Now, just give us a quick background on what you did after you got out of the Navy, career, family, anything you like that in that sense.
When I got out of the Navy, I tried going back to college, and I didn't do very well. All my friends had already been through college or never went to college and already had jobs. So they were always encouraging me to go party with them, and so college went by the wayside. And I was working retail automotive at the time, and that's when I realized college wasn't working out, so I went to my boss and I said, hey, what do I need to further my career with the company? And it was 6 months after that I was managing one of the stores.
And did you continue to work for that company, or did you move on?
I worked for that company. That was, if I say it, was AutoZone.
Mm-hmm.
I worked for AutoZone for 15 years as a store manager. And then I got talked into jumping ship, and I went to O'Reilly Auto Parts, where I've been managing stores for O'Reilly's now for 10 years.
Okay. What about family?
Married now, been married for 22 years. Mm-hmm. I have a 21-year-old son, a 17-year-old daughter, and a 15-year-old daughter.
Okay. Too early for grandkids then.
Too early for grandkids.
All right. And is this the first time you've been back to the New Jersey since you disembarked?
This is my first time back.
And the first time you saw her on the pier coming up, what was it like? What was your reaction?
Heart racing. A lot of good times, a lot of bad times on board ship. So
Mm-hmm.
you can see it getting emotional. Just a great 4 years of my life here.
Mm-hmm. And you actually took our Terra 2 tour, so what was that like to actually kind of see people who'd never done it go through it, and what memories did that bring back?
That was exciting because it brought back all the initial awe when you first get in to see those kind of machinery spaces. Mm-hmm. This sheer size of everything on a ship like this is just awe-inspiring, and to see people that have never see their faces light up and the questions that are asked, it's just amazing, especially thinking that this is World War II technology.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now let's do a couple questions of reflection. For instance, what impact on your life did naval service have for you after you got out?
Taught me a lot of discipline. I'm in management now, and it's amazing the young people coming in seem to have no discipline. They have no care of whether they're on time for work. They always have their cell phones out. They don't seem to understand what work ethic truly is. And I think that's what the military really teaches, is work ethic and how to be a good person and work well with others and be part of a team.
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
I think that's, in a nutshell, is how to be something bigger than yourself and be a team.
Okay. Before I ask the last question, is there anything while you were talking, is there any other anecdotes from your time on the New Jersey that may have come to mind that you'd like to tell?
I don't know, just told my shipmates, thanks for a great time.
Okay. Which brings us to our last question. Now, this will be seen by historians in the future, well past us. And is there any message of legacy that you would like to leave for them, seeing this in the future?
I don't know what I'd say other than always be the best that you can be, and I'd really love to see the ship taken care of.
Mm-hmm. Anything else in general?
Not that I can think of it sitting here now, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. All right. In that case, if there's no other statements, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Again, thank you for your service and your time on board, taking the time to come out and talk to us. And I know you've been here for 2 days, so we thank you for that, and hope you enjoyed your time in the Philadelphia area. But this concludes our interview, and this is Angelo Pizzullo, manager of the Oral History Program on board the Battleship New Jersey in Camden, New Jersey. Today is Sunday, August 5th, 2018. Again, our interview guest was Mr. Glenn McCurdy from Peoria, Illinois. This recording and any transcripts, abstracts, or indexes made from the recordings will be stored in the Oral History Department of the Battleship New Jersey, the Library of Congress, Veterans History Project, and the New Jersey State Library System. All recordings will be made available to writers, researchers, teachers, and historians. And this is Angelo Pizzullo signing off.